You don't need more time. You don't need a better job, a different city, or a fresh start. You check your phone before your feet even hit the floor. Not because something is urgent, because the silence of the morning feels like something you have to fill before you've even opened your eyes. And by the time you're actually standing, actually moving through your day, you've already reacted to a dozen things that had nothing to do with you. Someone else's opinion, someone else's bad mood, a headline you didn't need to read at 6 in the morning. None of it was yours to carry. You picked it up anyway. What you need are rules. Not the kind people post on motivational pages. Not the kind that feel good for a morning and vanish by afternoon. The kind that Roman emperors carved into their own minds before dawn, so that by the time the world came for them, they were already unshakable. 2,000 years ago, men who commanded armies and endured slavery wrote down how to live. They didn't write for followers. They didn't write to be admired. They wrote because the rules were hard, and without writing them down, they knew they'd forget. Today, you're going to hear 7 of those rules. Not as history, not as philosophy, as a mirror held up to the exact life you're living right now. Let's begin. Before you say anything today, ask yourself one question. Does this make anything better? If the answer is no, say nothing. This sounds simple. It isn't, because your brain is wired to react. Someone says something unfair, your mouth opens. Something goes wrong, you explain yourself. Someone challenges you, you defend. And every time you do this, you give your power away. Marcus Aurelius understood this at a level most leaders never reach. He wrote in his private journal, the one he never intended for anyone else to read, that he never once regretted staying silent, but he regretted speaking many times. Think about that. The most powerful man in the Roman world, sitting alone at his desk, reminding himself not to talk too much, because silence is not weakness. Silence is pressure. It's the space where other people fill in the gaps with their own anxiety. It's where your presence does more than your words ever could. In the modern world, silence feels like surrender. It isn't. Every time you hold your tongue when the urge to react is screaming inside you, you are choosing who you are. You're not suppressing yourself. You're deciding yourself. Here's the practice. Today, before you respond to anything that stirs emotion, count to 5. Not to calm down, to choose, to remind yourself that the next words out of your mouth are a choice, not a reflex. That 5-second gap is where your character lives. But silence by itself doesn't change anything. It just creates space. What you do with that space is the real work. You cannot delete a habit. You can only replace it. This is not motivational language. This is neuroscience and Stoic philosophy arriving at the exact same conclusion, separated by 2,000 years. Epictetus was sold into slavery as a child. He had no freedom of movement, no freedom of choice. His owner, a cruel man named Epaphroditus, once grabbed Epictetus by the leg and began twisting it, wanting to see if a philosopher would scream. Epictetus looked at him calmly and said, "You're going to break it." And when it snapped, he simply said, "Did I not tell you?" No rage, no despair, no collapse. How? Because Epictetus had replaced every reflex of helplessness with a single trained response. What can I control right now? He had practiced this replacement so many times, under so much pressure, that even physical pain could not override it. You are not a slave, but you have your own chains. The scrolling that replaces rest, the complaints that replace action, the distraction that replaces presence. Picture your hand reaching for your phone the way it does 40, 50, 60 times a day. That's not boredom. That's a slot your brain has already built, and something has to occupy it. And no amount of willpower will break those chains. Willpower is a resource. It runs out. Replacement doesn't run out. Because once the new behavior occupies the slot the old one held, the brain stops fighting. It just runs the new program. So don't ask yourself what you need to stop doing. Ask what you're going to do instead. Specifically. Every time. Same trigger. Different response. That is how Epictetus built an iron mind from inside a cage. And that is how you build yours. There's a deeper layer underneath replacement, though. It has to do with what you let yourself expect. You've spent most mornings of your life asking the same question. How do I succeed? The Stoics asked something different. What is quietly destroying you right now? This is called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. And before you dismiss it as pessimism, understand what it actually is. It is the most pragmatic mental tool ever devised. Marcus Aurelius practiced this every single morning. Before the demands of running an empire arrived at his door, before the petitions, the generals, the political maneuvering, he would sit alone and think through everything that could go wrong that day. Not to dread it, but to remove its power to shock him. Because the thing that breaks you is almost never the difficulty itself. It's the surprise. It's the gap between what you expected and what actually arrived. Think about the last time something genuinely wrecked your day. Chances are, it wasn't the size of the problem. It was how blindsided you felt. The meeting that came out of nowhere. The message you weren't ready for. The moment you thought you'd handled something, and it came back anyway. When you sit each morning and ask, what could go wrong today, and how will I respond if it does? You are not predicting disaster. You are making yourself disaster-proof. Try this. Before you start tomorrow, name 3 things that could go badly. Don't spiral into catastrophe. Just name them. Then decide, in advance, how you'll respond to each one. You are not hoping for the worst. You are refusing to be ambushed by it. The Stoics called this mental training. You've probably just called it worry and spent years avoiding it instead of using it. That's the difference between a reactive mind and a prepared one. Once you stop being ambushed by your day, a second question shows up. Not about what happens to you, about what's already in front of you that you keep trying to avoid. There is a line from Marcus Aurelius that has survived 2,000 years because it contains something so uncomfortable that you'll want to read it, nod, and forget it within the hour. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Not around the obstacle, not despite the obstacle. Through it, as it. You already know what your obstacle is. You've been living with it. Maybe it's a relationship that keeps breaking down the same way. A career stuck at the same ceiling. A version of yourself you keep trying to shed, but somehow return to by nightfall. The same short temper, the same excuse, the same hour lost to nothing in particular. Here's what the Stoics observed. When you stop trying to remove an obstacle and start asking what this obstacle is teaching you, the obstacle changes. Not because the world changes, because you change the relationship you have with it. A soldier doesn't grow stronger from easy drills. A blacksmith doesn't forge iron in a cool room. The resistance is the mechanism. Without it, no strength forms. What are you treating as an inconvenience that is actually your training? The answer to that question is more valuable than any advice you'll find anywhere else, because it's specific to you. It's already inside your life. You just haven't looked at it the right way yet. Look at it now. Not every obstacle is something you're fighting, though. Some of it is just weight you're still carrying that you never agreed to carry. Here is something that will feel wrong when you first hear it. You do not need more. Not more motivation. Not more strategies. Not more content. More connections. More systems. What you need, what you've needed for longer than you'd like to admit, is less. Seneca was one of the wealthiest men in Rome. He owned multiple properties, moved in the highest political circles, and dined at tables most people couldn't imagine. And yet, regularly, deliberately, he would strip all of it away for a few days. He would eat simple food, wear rough clothing, sleep on a hard surface, not as punishment, as practice. He called it a rehearsal for poverty, but what he was actually doing was something far more sophisticated. He was testing himself. He was asking, if all of this were gone tomorrow, would I still be intact? You don't have a villa to give up, but you have your own version of this. A day without the phone in your hand. A week without checking whether people approve of you. An hour where you don't reach for anything to numb the quiet. And every time he came through those days whole, he reclaimed his freedom from the things he owned. Because the things you fear losing own you. The lifestyle you're terrified to give up controls you. The opinion you can't afford to lose silences you. Look at your life right now and ask, what am I holding on to that is actually holding me? One thing. You don't need to dismantle everything. Just one thing that has been quietly running your decisions without you realizing it. Let it go. Not because it doesn't matter, but because you need to prove to yourself that you are larger than the things you possess. That is what Seneca was building. Not wealth. Sovereignty. Subtraction clears the noise. But there's still the question of where your attention actually lives once the noise is gone. Your mind is somewhere else right now. Not fully here. There's a conversation from yesterday still running in the background. A worry about next week already loading. A version of tomorrow that hasn't happened and might never happen. Already draining energy you needed for today. This is the state your mind defaults to instead of being here, and the Stoics considered it one of the most dangerous ways to live. Marcus Aurelius, in the final decade of his life, was fighting simultaneously on multiple fronts. Military campaigns at the empire's borders, a devastating plague killing thousands in Rome, the slow deaths of people he loved. His life was objectively harder than almost anything you are carrying right now. And he wrote this: confine yourself to the present. Not as a suggestion, as a survival rule. Because the past is already sealed. Every second you spend replaying it is a second pulled from the only time that actually exists. Now. And the future is a projection. Your mind builds it from anxiety and assumption. It isn't real yet. You cannot live there. You can only spend energy on something that doesn't exist. The present moment is the only place where action is possible. It's the only place where you can actually change anything. And yet, it's the place you spend the least time in, even though it's the only one you ever actually occupy. Here is what this looks like in practice. Not meditation, not breathing exercises. Simply this. When you notice your mind drifting into yesterday or tomorrow, return to the one thing directly in front of you. Just one thing. Full contact with it. Not planning, not reviewing. just doing what the moment requires. Marcus Aurelius ran an empire this way. One moment fully met, then the next. You don't need to run an empire. You just need to be here. 6 rules, each one asking something different of you. But they were never really separate things. You remember the leg, Epaphroditus twisting it, wanting to know if a philosopher would actually scream, or if it was all just words. Epictetus telling him calmly before it happened what was about to happen, and then saying it again, just as calmly, after it did. What that moment was actually testing wasn't pain tolerance, it was ownership, whether Epictetus belonged to the man holding his leg or to himself. Because there are 2 kinds of things in this world: what belongs to your body, your reputation, your possessions, your circumstances, and what belongs to your character. The first category, anyone can reach. Loss, illness, betrayal, misfortune. These things will come for you, not as punishment, simply because that is what life is. It does not spare the disciplined, or the kind, or the careful. The storm does not check your credentials. But the second category, your character, that is a different territory entirely. No one can make you dishonest without your participation. No one can make you cowardly without your agreement. No one can pull the ground out from under the person you are becoming, unless you stop building. And here is what nobody has ever sat you down and explained. Character is not something you have. It is something you do, repeatedly, in small moments, under no particular pressure, when no one is watching. Every time you held your tongue when you wanted to react, you built it. Every time you faced an obstacle instead of rerouting around it, you built it. Every time you sat in the present instead of escaping into distraction, you built it. These are not dramatic moments. They are invisible, unremarkable to anyone watching. But they compound, they stack, and over months and years, they create a person, a specific, unmistakable person, who cannot be rattled the way the people around you get rattled. That person is not born. That person is constructed. One decision at a time, mostly in private, mostly in discomfort, mostly in exactly the kind of ordinary moment you're in right now. Listening to this, you will face things this year that you cannot predict. Something will come that challenges your stability, your sense of who you are, your belief that you've built something real. When that moment arrives, and it will arrive, the question isn't what will you do? The question is, who have you been building yourself to be? Start building now, not tomorrow, not after the situation improves, not after the week calms down, or the money comes in, or the other person finally changes. Exactly here, with exactly what you have. The Stoics didn't wait for better conditions. They became better people inside the conditions they already had. The slavery, the empire collapsing around them, the wealth they knew could vanish overnight. They didn't get to choose what came for them. None of us do. What they chose was who showed up to meet it. That option has always been available to you too. You just hadn't been told.